Hello and welcome back to part 3, Patrick Mahomes spreadsheet. And we have a few final things to do before we get to the fun part. The fun part is when we get to do the formatting. We're going to bring in some images and try to make this look like a cool spreadsheet for us here. I guess the first thing we should do is talk about this column J, and we want to do a few things. Let's go down here to J19 on the totals row. So what do we have here? All of 19, basically, these are the totals, right? So in J, we have the completion percentage. So this total right here, J19, should be his total completion percentage for the entire year. And it's pretty simple to do this since we really have the formula in row 18 that we're going to just click that corner and drag it down, and it's going to fill it in, and it's going to give me his current season completion percentage, which is about 68%. Pretty good, if you ask me. And then we're going to do the same thing for average number of yards. So that is if you took all of the yards that he's passed for and divided them up by the number of passes he's completed, click and drag that formula there, it'd be almost 15 yards for the season. So let's do a little bit of formatting here. Now you might be looking at row J and asking yourself, well, that does not look like a percentage. Well, it is a percentage. It's just written in decimal form. So we need to format these numbers. So just select, click on that J at the top there, and you should get the entire column highlighted. Put your mouse in the gray area, do a right click, go down to Format Cell, go to Percentage, and typically in football you would see really one decimal place, so change that 2 to a 1, hit OK, and since we select the percentage, you'll also see it up here, by the way, whichever form of numbers you're in, you can see it, which you can actually make those changes right there. But you see that it added the percent sign after the first decimal place there for each of those. So we have kind of a cool looking football looking spreadsheet there. And then for the average number of yards, let's select that row as well. And instead of right clicking, this time let's go up to here. And again, you have all of the numerical forms of formatting you can use. Let's go to number, and that's not going to let me change that. So I do need to do a right click on there and do format cells. And that gives me this right here where it says decimal places 2. Let's hit the bottom arrow and send that back to 1. And you have basically 1 decimal place there. There's one other formatting thing I'd like to do, and that's column B. If you go over here to B, select that row, and I do not like this particular form of dates. So let's go down here. We could do short date. Could do long date, which I do not like, or we could do this one. Go to there and do right click format cells, and I actually like the third one. It says 3/14 in the example, and then you get that, just that kind of a date right there. I like that one myself. If you can keep it that way, or if you want to do the short date that has the 2019 on the end of it, you can. I prefer to keep it just the day, the month and the day, because I know it's 2019 myself. All right. A couple other things we need to do. Now let's go down to cell I-21. This is a really interesting cell, I think. What we're going to do is we want to take all of his touchdowns and whoops, don't do that. We're going to take all of his touchdowns and figure out what is his rate of touchdowns per game. Like if he's scored 3 here in the first game, and then he scored 4 here in the second game, so he has 7 over 2 games. What is his average number of touchdowns per game? And we want that to calculate as the season moves along. And that's an average. Again, now we're going to do it a little bit different than average yards because it's calculated slightly differently. It's based on how many games they've played versus how many passes he's completed, if that makes sense or not. But there's this great command, so go ahead and type in equals, and then go ahead and start typing the word average AVER, and you'll see this formula come up here. Go ahead and double click on that, and you're going to get, it's going to look like this, equals average with a parenthesis. So what they're doing is they're now asking you for a range of data to put in there, and it will calculate the average based on how many cells you select. So if I click here, select down, but make sure you do not select that 10 in there. Only select through cell 18. So if you look right here, it should say L3 colon L18. It says the same thing there. And then what that's going to do is that is going to find the average number of touchdowns as each game goes along. So when you hit enter, you should get the number 2.5, which is correct. He scored 10 touchdowns over 4 games, and that's an average of 2.5 per game. So as the season goes along, let's say next week he scores 5 touchdowns. Okay, that raises his average to 3 touchdowns per game there. So, but we have to wait and see that. But you can see as you add numbers, again to the spreadsheet, all this number changes and this number changes because we put those formulas in there. Now you don't need to do that yet, but hopefully those numbers will keep getting larger and larger for us. All right, one other cool formula we're going to do in this video, and then we get to do the fun formatting stuff here after this video. And that is, we are going to, in this cell right here, cell I-22, we want to use math to calculate, well, based on his performance up to this point, what is the mathematical value that would represent the best estimate of the number of touchdowns that he'll score in the season. And it's really simple to figure that out. We want to take his average number of touchdowns per game, and we want to multiply it by the number of games. Well, the question is, how many NFL football games are in a season? And I've already told you there's 16. We're not including the playoffs because the truth is this class will be over by the time the playoffs are going anyway. So we're just going to do it through the regular season here. So a real simple formula, we're going to hit equals. And remember, when you design a spreadsheet, you can put any values in there for any math formula you want. I want to multiply the number of touchdowns per game average, which is in the cell right above me, I-21, I think. Yeah, I-21 times, that's the asterisk right above the number 9 on your number key. We want to multiply that times 16. Okay, and at his current rate, at 2.5 touchdowns in 4 games, if he continues that pattern exactly through the course of the season, the estimated number of touchdowns would be 40. Really pretty simple math happening for us there. Okay, so before I sign out here, I'm going to just change my screen again so you can see the formulas. So do that here. And so you see row I has formulas down here. Okay, row 19, you have the word totals there, but all of these are formulas right there. And in column J and K, you have all of these formulas there that you should have. And if you want to know how to do that trick, by the way, if you hold down the control button with your thumb and then press just to the left of the number 1 key, there's a little squiggle. You just tap it and then it'll flip. It'll kind of toggle over between the two formulas and back to the regular values right there. Okay, so that wraps it up for, what is this, part 3? Wow, part 3. Okay, so that is the math, hard programming side of it. Now, in the next couple videos, we will get into some fun. We'll bring in some images and change some fonts and do the formatting part, which is probably the most fun of all this stuff. So make sure you save your document, and to be continued.